When you think about the American Revolution, it's easy to picture the big names, right? The famous generals, the epic battles. But what really powered that whole thing was the sheer grit of thousands of ordinary people. Today, we're going to dig into the story of one of them, a guy who gave 8 years of his life to help build a new country, only to have his sacrifice nearly erased from history.
And it all kicks off with this one, kind of heartbreaking line from an old man. Decades after the fighting stopped, Isaac Buck is just trying to get the pension he earned. But the single piece of paper that proves everything he went through, it's gone. Just lost, somewhere along the way.
So, this is really our jumping off point. It makes you ask, okay, what did this man actually go through? And how on earth do you piece together a life like that when the official proof just vanishes? His fight to be remembered? Well, it opens up a window into what that whole war was really like for the average soldier. To find those answers, we've got to rewind, all the way back to the beginning. Back to a time when both Isaac and America itself were brand new, and nobody had any idea what was coming next.
17. Just let that sink in for a second. That's how old Isaac Buck was when he decided to sign up and go to war. I mean, at an age when most of us are just trying to figure out our lives, Isaac chose to tie his future to the birth of a nation. It's a pretty stark reminder of just how young so many of these revolutionaries were. The second that conflict ignited, Isaac was in. He wasn't drafted or anything. He chose to join up with the local militias that were scrambling to respond to the British. For him, this wasn't some far-off political debate. It was happening right there in his own backyard, and he answered the call.
But Isaac's role in the army wasn't your standard infantry grunt. He pretty quickly moved into one of the most specialized and, frankly, one of the most dangerous jobs on the whole battlefield.
Yeah, he became a matros. It's a word you probably haven't heard before, but for the Continental Army, these guys were absolutely essential. Think of them as the roadies for the big guns. They did all the heavy lifting and dirty work that made the cannons actually fire.
And this slide really shows you what a brutal job this was. I mean, this is back-breaking work, and you're doing it while people are shooting at you. That third step, sponging the barrel, that's life or death. If you don't put out every single little spark inside that barrel, the next bag of gunpowder you shove in there could go off in your face, taking out the entire crew. It took serious strength, courage, and a whole lot of focus.
Now, Isaac didn't just sign up for a few months and go home. That first enlistment turned into a long-haul career. He went from being a teenage volunteer to a hardened professional soldier in a standing army. And this timeline, man, it just lays it all out. 8 full years, from the absolute chaos of 1775 all the way to the official end in 1783. This wasn't some short adventure for him. This was his entire young adulthood spent at war. And check this out. It gives you a sense of just how chaotic things were. He served in at least 6 different companies, under a whole rotating cast of captains and colonels. Soldiers were constantly getting shifted around, wherever the army needed them, which meant any kind of stability was pretty much a fantasy.
And here's the thing. Isaac wasn't off in some quiet corner of the war. His service put him right in the middle of some of the most famous and infamous moments. The brutal winter at Valley Forge, he was there. The British taking over Philadelphia, he lived through it. And that game-changing alliance with France, he was there to see it happen. He experienced the absolute lowest points and the biggest turning points of the entire revolution. So as the war dragged into its final years, Isaac was still there. By now, he's a seasoned veteran, serving in one of the most professional outfits in the whole army, the 3rd Continental Artillery, under General Henry Knox himself. And then there's this, which is it's amazing. Right in the middle of all the danger and the chaos, life just finds a way. In 1780, while he's still on active duty, Isaac somehow gets leave, goes all the way back to Massachusetts, and marries his sweetheart, Martha. And then he went right back to his post. It's just an incredible testament to how these soldiers were trying to hold on to their real lives while fighting for a new one. And here are his own words from that pension application. There's no fluff, no exaggeration, just a simple, powerful statement of fact. Without any interruption or absence. He saw it all the way through, from beginning to end. He literally served until the lights went out. He was at West Point in June of 1783 when the army was officially dissolved. And that means he was there for the incredibly tense aftermath of the Newburgh conspiracy. This moment where angry, unpaid officers almost staged a military takeover of the new government. Isaac witnessed the fragile instant where the army chose to step down and let civilians rule, securing the very republic he'd spent 8 years fighting for. Which brings us full circle, right back to where we started, with Isaac as an old man, his body worn out, fighting one last battle. But this time, it's a battle for recognition and for survival.
You see, for these guys, the war didn't just end in 1783. The physical price they paid was immense. 8 years of hauling cannons, sleeping out in the cold, and living on terrible food, that stuff leaves a mark. His poor health as an old man wasn't just old age, it was the bill for his service coming due.
So after everything, after the 8 years, the lost paperwork, the sworn testimonies from his neighbors, this is what his sacrifice was valued at. $8 a month. It's a shocking number, but for an elderly Isaac, that $8 was a lifeline.
And that's really why his story matters so much. Isaac Buck is the stand-in for all the other privates and madrasas whose records are even more lost than his. Their names might be gone, but their combined effort, their endurance through years of hell, that's the foundation the United States was actually built on.
So the question we're left with is, well, it's a big one. Isaac's entire legacy almost vanished because he lost one piece of paper from his pocket. It just makes you wonder, whose stories will we never get to know? And what do we owe the memory of all those people who gave everything and left almost nothing behind?